CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.
Apparently this guy's he's an academic now. He's a Nuffield scholar. He's an Environment Southland councillor, but he's here with us. G'day, mate. Welcome to the show. G'day, John.
How you doing, Andy?
Appreciate it, mate. Southland today, how's it looking? You're down there in eastern Southland?
Yeah, no, a bit like duck shooting, mate. Bluebird Day.
Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate, wasn't it? How did your pond go?
No, not so flash. New pond, new my, but look, we're well in amongst the dairy conversion shed build, so I'll happily take the sunshine, mate, for a year.
Yeah, good on you. All right, next time. Now, let's get a little bit serious about this Nuffield Scholarship. First and foremost, before we get into your Nuffield, what is a Nuffield Scholarship?
Look, Nuffield Scholarship started back 75-year anniversary this year in New Zealand, but prior to that it was in the started in the UK, and literally it was out the back of the World Wars where Sir Nuffield himself would pay for farmers to go overseas and bring back solutions globally back to the UK. That's how it all started, really. So it was like a then they would literally just leave their country, hop on a boat and leave the country and their business for almost a year, pretty much. So, yeah. All
right. And so you are a Nuffield scholar. How do you get a Nuffield scholarship? And then what's the process for you to decide what you're going to study?
So the Nuffield Scholarship, anyone can apply for it. Normally you end up getting needled for a year or two to get your head around how it looks. It is a big commitment, so a lot of people look at it and go, I can't do that, I'm too busy. But once you talk to a few scholars that have done it, you start to think, maybe I can find a way of fitting this in. That's pretty much the same with me. Got needled for a couple of years and decided to do it, and the process is you apply, you put forward your CV and such like, and then they whittle the numbers down of all the applicants, so there's 40 or 50 a year roughly down to about 10 or 11, and then from there you go through an hour and a half interview, depending on where it's Christchurch or Wellington, wherever they have it that year, and then they work through it. And the last few years it's been 4 scholars in New Zealand that have been awarded the scholarship. The last 2 years been four, some years it's 5, but I just think with the cost of travel and such like, the 4 seems to be the number.
Okay, so what does the scholarship then allow you to do?
So the scholarship allows you to so your topic is your choice.
Yeah.
Yes, sponsorship is brought in, but it's one big pot, so you're not tied. Internationally, a lot of other countries will be tied to that sponsorship, so they do have to bring back something of use to whatever company is supporting them at the time. So we do have a fair bit of freedom in New Zealand around that, and also the beauty is quite often you get into your topic and decide, this is not really there's probably other options that might have bigger influence around solutions for New Zealand. So you can change your topic, which is great. There's certainly that freedom within the New Zealand Nuffield structure to allow that. So you start off with about 50k of funding. Chunk of that gets pulled away for conferences and programs that you have to do as part of your scholarship, and then you're left over with a bit to do personal travel. So, and also there's a global focus program in there, which is about 6 weeks of travelling with about 10 or so other scholars, international scholars, and the program's laid out for you for the whole entire trip. So that's a fascinating one because you're just stuck with a group of people for that time, and it's
that's where you learn the most.
It's quite fun.
That's where you learn the most, I'd say.
Yeah, you certainly learn the most about other people and stuff. For your topic, it was certainly you don't want to take that approach that what's in it for me for my topic on the global focus program. You want to keep very broad-minded and think more about personal growth for leadership and such like and things like that. So my personal travel took me to Brazil, Europe, UK, and America. My GFP took me to Canada, the UK, Italy, Australia, and I actually had to pull out of 2 countries, Spain and India. We had that storm blow through Southland when in the thick of it, and we thought we had everything under control, and generator blew up that we had, and so it was getting a wee bit tough for the guys back on the farm. So I actually whipped home for 2 weeks, then rejoined the crew.
Yeah, that was October, I think. It was pretty average, all right, if I remember rightly. Okay, let's talk about your Nuffield specifically then. What was your topic?
So my topic originally started out as how do we use nature-based solutions for a trading platform, i.e. wetlands, if you could put in sizable wetlands downstream, cleaning up the community's water, and how could that be a tradable commodity with those that are contributing. Similarly, planting out the headwaters of catchments so that we're not having to keep investing in high floodbacks, which aren't going to work. So I went and had a look at all that. Didn't really come across many programs where that was sort of hugely successful. A couple of wee glimpses, but I guess where I landed with my Nuffield was, is mature. Is New Zealand actually mature enough to deal with that conversation? And are we too sporadic around what science we're talking about, and where are the gaps? And I think we do see that there's a lot of sector ownership around engagement and science. And I'm the dairy sector, so I'm not blind to that. So when I was in the US, I saw a program from the Chesapeake Bay which literally brought everybody together, and no one got a free lunch or a free pass. Everyone had to contribute to the issue they had back in the 90s, which was massive nitrate issues, and they had dead fish in the Chesapeake Bay. And so that involved the Delaware and Maryland counties all working together. And what it showed me was when you get the right format for delivering that science, i.e. extension, and you get the right program and who is actually driving the science, i.e. not sector owned, it brings everybody in the tent together. And once you get that trust, everybody gets on board, and actually you can make some pretty serious quick changes to the environment. Okay,
so how do we do that then in a New Zealand context, or what would you be looking for, or what does your results show for us to do that in New Zealand? Because we've got catchment groups. How's this different, say, from a catchment group then?
Yeah, so how's this different to the catchment group? Catchment groups don't have a line of sight back to what you'll consider an honest broker. Example, let's say if Lincoln University was an honest broker where they ground truthed all the science that came into New Zealand, whether it's new grass seed or new products for managing nitrogen. They ground truthed all that, so the science was there, and it was a base that everyone could agree on. This works, this doesn't work. Those catchment groups, fantastic for engagement and education, as a hub for farmers and the community come together. If we could have a line of sight back to something like Lincoln University, and a direct line of extension work from there, delivering the science of what is required for that catchment to move forward. Because every catchment's different. But personally, I'm very conscious that these are voluntary roles that are run inside catchment groups, so it's very much that is the engagement and the education space. It shouldn't be around policy making and things like that sometimes we do seem to, I'm concerned when we might see some movement in that space.
So if that was the case then, did you come up with a structure of something that might then allow that to happen? And if that was the case, is it scalable across the country?
Yeah, look, I saw a lot of examples overseas how it could work, and I think New Zealand's quite unique in how we operate. I don't think it's for me to design a program. I think it's for me to show here's a hybrid that could work, and I think we need to engage with, like the Delaware University. I think it's a real opportunity to bring farmers, the governance from the university, the science from the university, and the extension officers. And what I mean by extension, I think if people think of prior to the time I was around, but you possibly remember, Andy, the MEF days, now they had they were very much around systems and profit. I think if you could have something similar to that with we now know what we know around environmental, how we engage with the environment as a business on a farm, a community such like, is there something like that that could work? Because there seemed to be that level of trust with those MAF officers back in the day, from the research I've done anyway.
Yeah, we just talked to Campbell Parker, and we just saw the results that they brought out a press release yesterday, positive freshwater results delivered by good farming practices. Effectively, implementation of good farming practice plays a critical role in reducing nutrient losses and improving freshwater outcomes. I think, correct me if I'm wrong on this, what you're saying is that's good in isolation, right? But we need a system set up somehow to make sure that it's streamlined, and we're a bit patchwork in our approach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I saw examples overseas where it didn't matter what class of stock you were farming or what type of land use you had to follow the same rules around buffer zones, around how much forestry to carry in your farm. And I think that's where we get a wee bit tangled up in New Zealand. Like, you drive past a property and you, as a farmer, you're not like, look at Otago versus Southland. It's a stark difference to how we manage our effluent when you drive through the border. You look at winter grazing, and rules like, the 190 rule. If it has black and white animals, dairy cattle grazing it, that restricts the 190 rule. Whereas for every other farm system, it's open slather. And there's those inconsistencies that aren't very helpful.
Yeah, all right. Mate, we're out of time. I'm not sure, where do people find, there'll be a website, where do people find your report?
Rural leadership, New Zealand, and if it's Google Nuffield 2025 Nuffield scholarships, and obviously you'll see reports there from Dani Dark and Lisa Porters, and Alan's one's coming a wee bit later. But so there's three of us have got reports out now.
Okay, mate, really appreciate it. We're going to talk about them over the next 3 or 4 weeks, so we'll follow them. Jon Pemberton, Nuffield Scholar, Environment Southland Councillor as well, dairy farmer there. I'll let you get back to work, mate. Looks like you're busting for it. We'll talk again.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
All right. Fascinating stuff there. Really interesting to see this work. I know Jon doesn't just talk about it. He absolutely lives it, and his farm, a lot of work going on there.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.